Hello, my soul-seeking friends. It's Shanna. Thank you so much for listening to Sense of Soul podcast. Enlightening conversations with like-minded souls from around the world, sharing their journey of finding their light within, turning pain into purpose, and awakening to their true sense of soul. If you like what you hear, show me some love and rate, like, and subscribe. And consider becoming a Sense of Soul Patreon member, where you will get ad-free episodes, monthly circles, and much more. Now go grab your coffee, open your mind, heart, and soul. It's time to awaken. Today on Sense of Soul, we have Sally Patton. Sally is an author and child development advocate who has worked with children with special needs for over 35 years and has wrote several books on child development and has conducted workshops or ministering to children with special needs labels in faith communities and on spiritual parenting of atypical children. And over the years, Sally expanded her spiritual awareness through a deep contemplative practice involving non-dual mystical texts and teachings about our truth as divine beings inhabiting physical bodies for the purpose of embodying compassionate consciousness. She has conducted workshops on women's spiritual and transformational journeys to help them reclaim their divine feminine essence, to heal lifetimes and decades of patriarchal conditioning. And she's joining us today to tell us about her new book, Life is a Song of Love, where she draws upon channeled non-dual teachings from Yeshua and Mother Mary, combined with a variety of teachings from many faith traditions and spiritual paths, to answer a unique call to be an emissary of the divine feminine compassionate consciousness. This book is an intimate transformational journey interwoven with the archetypal journey of every woman on the spiritual path to undo the internalized patriarchy. Well, if that's not right up my alley, then I don't know what is. So I'm excited to have this conversation and to share Sally Patton with you.
Hi, Shanna.
Hi, how are you?
I am good. How are you?
Oh, I'm so excited about this conversation. I know it's going to be amazing.
I'm looking forward to it also.
There's so much synchronicity I have to show you. You and I were going back and forth, trying to get you on.
Yeah.
And during that week, I was, for no reason at all. Okay, I do art. I'm always creating something. And I'm writing a book on the goddess Sophia. My journey is all about the goddesses that kind of led me there. It was all synchronicity. I didn't seek any of it. So it was really a divine journey. I'm creating this picture and I have no idea why. None. I mean, kind of a little bit off of a dream that I had years ago, but it was just random that I was doing it in that moment. And I've seen this picture before, but I wanted to create it myself. And one day you and I were messaging, and I said, I need to go and look at her stuff because I started to feel a connection as we were going back and forth. The divine feminine is truly something else because I find this to be a regular occurrence, I would say.
Uh-huh. Yes.
It's pretty darn amazing. Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, do you see this egg?
Yes. That's the
Uh-huh.
Gnostic egg.
Yeah, look. Oh, we'll see. I don't even know that.
Ah,
So I had made this the December 6th.
yeah.
And I want to say if we go back to our messages, it was right around that time that I hadn't seen the cover, or is this is on the cover of your book?
Yes. Yeah. The snake is going up instead of down.
Oh,
And
it
you'll,
is? Okay. And
yeah.
is there a reason? Is it because of the Kundalini?
Yes.
Is it?
And
Okay.
also, so if you Google Gnostic eggs
Uh-huh.
or
Which
Orphic
one?
eggs, they're one and the same thing. You will find similar things, but the snake is usually going upward.
Okay. Sorry to take up that time, but I knew it was important. And then I started to read more and look into more about your book. And I was like, oh, okay. This meeting is created by
Yeah,
the divine.
it definitely feels like that. I'm so pleased.
I know. I can't wait to hear about your journey. I just had to share that with you. lately, my most favorite thing to do is to hear how people fall into the Divine Mother, because I know for myself that was not something that I easily accepted. I had to fight against all these conditions because I grew up Catholic.
Yeah. Of course, the Catholic Church did preserve the mother in one form,
Right.
which has been helpful for a lot of people that at least she was there in that form. At least in the Catholic Church, Mother Mary had a place, even though she's a lot more than what the Catholic Church assigned to her.
Right.
However, the Protestant churches didn't really retain Mother Mary. So
Yeah.
we kind of lost the one representation of Mother God, in a
Yeah.
sense, in organized Protestant religions. However, she's back in force. She is definitely here in her many forms, the Mother God in her many, many forms. And
Yes.
it's why we're going through this awakening right now. It's because the Mother God finally returned to the face of God for balance. It's really quite a wonderful time to be alive,
Mhm.
even with all of the violence and conflict and all of the stuff that is just sort of rearing its head at the moment.
Which is so why we need that.
Yes, and it's why it's happening
Mhm.
that the Mother God returned, because all of that energy for everything that had been hidden beneath the surface has
Yeah.
brought it up into the light so that it can be healed. And that's pretty much the purpose and why this is all going on right now. We have to hold on to our faith and trust that this really is a healing experience rather than going backwards, feeling as if, women are losing all of their rights and all of that kind of stuff.
A
It feels
woman.
as if we're going backwards, but patriarchy is holding on like a little
I
grip.
know. As you're saying that, I had this vision of I have four children.
Uh-huh. Oh yeah.
And there is always like this thing, you better not mess with it. I'm gonna go tell your dad. I'm gonna go get your dad. Right?
Yeah.
Like if the kids are being bad or whatever, you threaten like that father. Like I'm
Yeah.
gonna go get your dad. But when things are too out of control, it's the mother that comes in and calms that chaos.
Yes.
When the discipline's gone too far or that it's too hectic or there's fighting or whatever, the mom can come in and be that balance and be that peace.
Yes. Yes. Some moms.
Yeah, true.
There is this evolution. I know my daughter and I have been healing the mother daughter patriarchal wound now for years, and we're still doing it.
So
Uh,
many.
and, I had a loving mother, but she also had her issues. And of course, I'm 73. So my mother, she would have been 103 now. She had been conditioned just like all of us to stay silent, to be the nurturer, but never really allow her wild, creative self to take hold and be the power that
Mm.
she could be. And that conditioning, that came down to me also.
Right.
And then, of course, I was the generation, the 60s and the 70s where the feminist movement came alive. And so we thought we could do it all, right?
Mhm. Mm,
Because that's the conditioning. If you're going to be with the men in the work world, then you have to play by their rules. You can't be the creative, wild wisdom woman that has fierce love on her side and rocks the boat. You can't be that, at least when in the 70s and the
right.
80s. I was, and that conditioning got down the female line to my daughter, Sarah.
Right. Is she a
And
Gen X?
she's 38 right now. The thing that's happened is that my husband, Rick, died in April.
I'm so sorry.
And so we are still within this grief process.
Yeah.
But the grief process has cleared out so much stuff that she's still healing what she thought her inner child needed and she didn't get from me. So
Mm.
it's required us to be totally, completely honest with each other,
Mm.
which at times it's rough,
Yeah,
but it's the only way through. It's the
true.
only way through is to be totally and completely honest about our feelings, because for so long, both men and women were taught not to deal with feelings. We were supposed to shove them away, and they got shoved into our shadow place, which is held by the inner child. And so the only way out is through complete honesty and self-love.
Which wasn't taught to us.
No, it was not taught to us. And self-love can only occur when we completely embrace all the feelings that we have instead of shoving them away. So that's
Mm.
what's happening with us right now. And I tell you, sometimes it's like, oh, gee, are we ever going to get through this? But I know we will. And we tell each other we love each other all the time, even when we're having a hard time with the healing process.
It's so funny. I was just talking about this with a client not too long ago. I work mainly with women, but I'm open to working with men too, and I have. But most of us women are healing that mother wound,
Mhm.
and because they're healing their mother wound or didn't even know that they needed to heal that. Yeah.
And it's important that the women do it first, because we do have that capacity. We know that wisdom is
Yeah.
inside of us, that even with the thousands of years of trying to suppress
Mhm.
the divine feminine, we actually do know it's still inside of us. And I think those of us who are on any kind of spiritual journey start to access that inner wisdom. I have learned that, women became the prime purveyors of patriarchy, conditioning, because they had to have the women do that. We were the ones that give birth. We have the children, and that we needed to be well conditioned so that the tool, I consider patriarchy a tool of separation consciousness.
Absolutely.
And so that never could have happened if women's powers hadn't been suppressed.
Joan of Arc just came to my mind just now. Anytime there was, any kind of strength in
Yeah.
a woman, it was feared.
Yeah. They were suppressed, they were violently killed. Many women ended up on the cross, just like Yeshua. And of course, burning and all that did happen. It may be not terribly well known, but it did happen. We have that memories in ourselves ancestrally, but also from previous lives.
Yeah, strong. So there is something that is really, really changing in women right now.
It's amazing. I love it. I just love, especially your generation, my daughter's generation, and then even younger.
Oh,
It's
yes.
amazing what is happening. And those children that are coming in now, they're coming in for the full purpose of seeing us through to the awakening transition of Earth to the fifth dimension.
They've been
So,
my greatest teachers for sure. My children have been my great, and the younger they are, the more advanced they are.
I know you have 4 children. How
Yeah,
many are?
two girls, two boys. So,
Oh, a nice balance.
yeah,
I mean, after all, that's what we're after, right? We're
true.
not after, we just want to heal the distorted masculine. The divine masculine is needed just as much as the divine feminine.
I've
Uh,
learned that.
yeah.
Yes.
And it took me a long time to even understand what the divine masculine was,
Same.
because I'd been so conditioned. Everything that I thought was positive energy had to belong to the feminine energy, right?
I felt that way too because I was like mad, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of anger coming out still from women,
Right.
and it's a good thing. The anger is a good thing. All emotions are good things. They're just emotions. And
Yeah.
the anger helps us get in touch with stuff that we've shoved away into the
Mm.
shadow. It brings it up, and it's necessary so that we can turn our anger into fierce love, which is very much the divine feminine, is the fierce love. I mean, Kali Ma is a wonderful example of fierce love, Sekhmet. And we kind of made Mother Mary into this sweet, kind, but she's not. She's fierce. She has that fierce love.
She
Uh,
has to, right? That mother bear. I can imagine,
yeah,
watching my son alienated and called a liar and being crucified and all the things. That
yeah.
would be
And
horrible. I mean, the
even
only
though,
times in my life I've ever felt like true anger is, when
yeah,
someone's attacking my child.
yes, I went through similar. The thing about Mother Mary is she is so much more than what any of the organized religious churches have made her out to be.
Mm.
And she is here in much, much greater energy than ever before. I mean, Mother Mary is just a manifestation of the Mother Sophia God. She is her avatar, I guess would be the best word to use. It's her avatar. So I still go through periods of just admittedly fear and despair. And then I have to bring myself back to the inner. Because when we truly have compassion for ourselves, then we can have compassion for all of those people who, and a lot of them are men who are so gripped in the fear of losing control. And when we can have compassion for them, it doesn't mean that we forgive their actions. We just have compassion for them so that we do not fall into the kind of anger that's based on fear and hatred. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you said that beautifully. I feel like that's been my journey for a long time, outside of even understanding the divine feminine. So it was just the healing of the self first in that,
Yes.
and not even, I had no idea where this was going to go. But, my journey started with that self-love and that self-trust. Self-trust is a big one, I think, for women.
Huge. It's huge. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah,
And
not needing validation from outside of you.
yeah, that one is really huge.
Yeah.
And something that's continues even with me. I lose my self-trust periodically, and then I have to center myself in my contemplative practice. And I have a labyrinth that I created, which is why the labyrinth became the metaphor for the heroine's mystical spiritual journey.
That's
Yeah.
amazing. Please tell me, what does it represent?
So the labyrinth often gets confused with a maze, but the maze is the patriarchal construct. It is deliberately created to get people lost,
Mm,
and often can lead to violence and hurt. But the labyrinth is a universal path. It folds in and out, and it always leads into the center. The thing of it is, if you follow the path, which is very clearly marked, it always leads into the center. But it feels like it goes in and you're almost there, and then you're let out again, and then it folds and may take you out to the furthest point, and then it starts to fold, and then it starts, and then eventually it ends up in the middle of your heart and your womb. So the labyrinth is like a mandala, and it represents the womb of the Holy Mother, of Mother God. And it also is a representative of our path, a spiritual path for both men and women, right?
oh,
Because no path is straight. That's the divine feminine, the interweaving, the back and forth. That is the
right.
divine feminine. We bring everything together. As in our journey, sometimes we feel like we've gotten close to our hearts and awakening, and then all of a sudden, whoops, we're let out again and we fold in, and because there's more for us to learn
It
on our
reminds me of the
path.
cycles of the moon, right?
Yes, there's always more to learn. I mean, this is one of my biggest revelations in my spiritual journey, is that there's no final big boom ending. I kept thinking early on in my path that if
Like there
I
was an end.
just get this figured out, right,
Yes,
everything would be great and fine. But the thing of it is, even when we are not in these bodies and we transition on into our soul state, we are constantly expanding and learning. It
I
never
know.
stops. It never stops.
This is why I can't end my book. How did you finish your book? I just
You
thought
know,
as soon as you're talking about the labyrinth, I'm like, here we go again. I'm gonna have to add that into my book.
yeah, well, and I had a very close conversation. I sometimes can channel. It's not a regular thing. And the whole book was very much of a transmission. My awareness was very, very high. And one of the things about the labyrinth, and I'll get to that question, but is that I was supposed to write the book the same way. In my other two books, I wrote an outline. You know, you follow an outline, you follow a
Right.
map. You know, that's how you learn in school. You have to. And this time I was given in a meditation with Kuan Yin by my inner child, the blank book with the title Life is a Song of Love. And I thought, oh, great, but no thanks. I just really didn't want to write another book, if truth be known. I was very content on top of my mesa. I'm pretty isolated and I'm an introvert and I'm fine, right? But eventually I became very aware that this was something that I couldn't resist, that this was something I was supposed to do. I'm an emissary of the divine feminine. It needs to be written. But I didn't know what. And very early, the message from Mother Mary was, you're not to write an outline. I spent a lot of time trying to write an outline and it just didn't work. I had no idea what was going to end up in the book. And she said, just write, just write, because it'll eventually fold in like the labyrinth and interweave, and it'll eventually turn into an entire book. And toward the end, second to last movement, I think it was, I had a very wonderful sort of humorous conversation with Mother Mary, and I kept saying, I don't know when the book will end. And,
Me
and she
too. I've had the same conversation.
and she said, oh, the book will end, but you won't. You will just continue. And that's true. I eventually did come to a
Yeah.
place where it felt like I was supposed to stop. I didn't know in the beginning. And the thing about the interweaving, I actually wrote the finale, what I call the finale,
First.
before I wrote the prelude.
Dude, this is so crazy. This is so like me,
This was not like
not
me.
like you.
Yeah, this was me finally just saying, okay, I'll give up. This is trust. I'll just trust that it'll all turn into what it needed to be.
Thank you for
And
that.
so I did and it sounds like you are too. I lived the book while
Yeah.
I wrote it. So there were things happening all along the way, like this beginning work on the mother-daughter
Yeah.
patriarchal wound started before I actually started writing the book, but I had no word for it. Then I had a word for it, and then I realized that all
Yes.
my movements led up to it and all my movements led from it.
Same.
But I
I
didn't.
never had the words either. I was like, what is happening? What is going on? I didn't know anything about any of this. And I'm like, what? That's a thing? Like, wow. It does. And that's why it is expansive. You're so right on that. And thank you so much for even validating that for me because, well, first of all, the labyrinth thing, that's huge. And I actually saw at the bottom of, I don't know if you know who Diana Kelly is, but I had her on and she's more in the Gnostic Sophia as well, but she has a labyrinth of her website. And I meant to ask her about that. I just saw it recently and I didn't, but
Have you managed to walk one?
no, but I looked one up. So of course my podcast's very divine. So anything that's going on in my life, usually I'll have a guest. So
Uh-huh.
it's just been like that, the synchronicity with my podcast and my guest. And I had a guest who came on, she wrote a book about labyrinths, but
Mm-hmm.
she didn't connect it to the divine feminine, but she was telling me about them. And I was like, wow. I said, my favorite movie is The Labyrinth.
Ah,
With David Bowie and,
yeah.
growing up, that was my favorite movie. It still is one of my favorite movies. And yeah, but you get lost, right? And there's like this
Lost, yeah.
anxiety. So I was very intrigued by, this practice that she had with the labyrinth. And so I looked up, we have a really amazing one here in Colorado, but it's far from me. Where are you at?
I'm in Abiquiu, New Mexico, which is
Okay.
an hour from Chama, which is right on that Colorado border.
Yeah, you're not
So
far. We're neighbors.
we'll have to figure out how to get together.
Well, and if I ever go to this labyrinth, it is that way. And I want to say it is on the property of the very first Catholic church in Colorado.
Oh, it's possible the Catholic churches have embraced the labyrinth because they came through New Mexico. Yeah, I could see
Well, in
that.
the San Luis Mountains,
Yeah,
that's actually named after the French because they owned, all the parts of Colorado right there. And it's named after St. Louis,
yeah,
which was the first king that was sainted. I feel like
yeah.
everything's hidden in plain sight.
It is. It is. And there are actually labyrinths everywhere now.
Are
I
they?
mean, oh, yeah, it's really caught on,
I need to find one because I almost thought about creating one in my backyard.
right? Well, there's plenty of stuff online on creating labyrinths.
Okay.
Tons. Just make sure you get the
Nice.
one that folds in and out, is a unicursal path into the center.
Right.
Because still people will use the word labyrinth or labyrinthine to describe getting lost and in court, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But the true labyrinth, you can't get lost. There's
Wow.
absolutely no way to get lost, which is
Wow.
true of our spiritual journeys. When
Wow.
we decide to go in, there is no way to get lost if you are tapping into your inner self, your inner soul.
Yeah. I definitely felt a little lost at first as I entered into what I felt was so unfamiliar to me.
Mhm.
Reading the Gnostic Gospels and saying, whoa, Jesus is like a freaking Zen master. What? Who is this Jesus? And Mary Magdalene, she's a seeker like me.
Yeah.
But it was so unfamiliar.
Well, it is unfamiliar, and yeah, it can feel as if you're getting lost when you're in the labyrinth. Because
Yeah.
when you think, oh, I'm almost to the center, all of a sudden, whoops, you fold out again. And that's just life. That's
Yeah.
why it's a good metaphor, because our lives do fold us in and out of our center all the time. And we do fold in and out of fear all the time.
Hmm.
And that's helpful to remember. And also, after you've experienced it enough time, you realize that when you fold out into fear or whatever is going on, that you always will return to your
Hmm.
inner self.
What I found was that I kept coming to new perspective.
Mm-hmm. This,
Anytime I was seeking, there was this seeking. I mean, in fact, my book's called Desperately Seeking Sophia because there was this, I felt like a spiritual sleuth.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
I was an investigator and I was going to figure this all out, right? Like kind of like you said, I thought there was an end game too. I was going to figure it out. But really, you're right because the only thing that kept happening was I was evolving and everything was expanding. My beliefs were expanding, and I wasn't turning away from even my beliefs. In fact, they just were becoming more rich
Yeah,
and
yeah,
more of my own experience rather than what someone had told me to believe.
yeah. And my other suggestion would be to do a little more research into the Gnostic egg.
I
Um,
know, obviously.
because it was a clear indication there early on for you. And the egg is the representative of the cosmic womb. And then the snake and the owl are always associated with the divine feminine because the snake sheds its skin, it's always rebirthing itself. It's always transforming itself. And then some snakes have poison,
Mm.
which can be an alchemical process of transformation. And my
Right.
book cover, by the way, was done by my son.
Oh,
Um,
I love that.
my book cover has a rose and a lily in the mouth of the
Yeah.
snake, and
Yes.
the labyrinth is the background for the egg, if you look
Okay.
at it.
What's significant about the lily? Because I have a whole chapter about Lilith and
Okay.
Lily and how this came
Oh,
about.
well, and I have a whole chapter on Lilith in my book, too, a whole movement on Lilith.
Me too.
Wow.
It came from a dream. I had no idea who she was. It was all about a
There
dream.
really are a lot of synchronicities between the two of us, aren't there? So, yes, I hope you read my movement on Lilith. I'd love to get your opinion on it, given that you're also writing about her. She's
So
amazing. And she really was the first woman,
I
the
know.
first prototype woman. Yeah.
And I feel like if we would have known her, I mean, what a feminist, right? I mean, really, truly the first woman to use her voice.
She was vilified for it.
Yes.
Yes, she was. I mean,
Demonized.
they turned her into a witch, the kind of witch that whenever they get a strong woman, they used the word witch, which was actually a wonderful word at one point, and is returning to that point. In fact, a lot of people think that it's also they vilified her, and it's also started the stories of vampires and succubuses and all this kind of stuff because she was supposed to suck the sexual vitality out of men. I mean, they
Yeah,
did a
right.
really good job of trying to destroy her
Yeah, for not
because
wanting to lay beneath.
Adam, yeah,
Hmm. Yeah, I didn't know anything about the story. It was really a dream. I had a dream that I was at a wedding. I was
yeah.
getting married, and all these men were like giving me gifts, and there was something not right about all the men. They were like a secret society of some sort too. And I go back into this dark area of my home, I guess, and it was not like any time that I've ever lived in. It was old, and there was this woman hiding there.
Hmm.
And I felt very protective of her. And her name was Lily. And we knew that we had to leave. We heard this man outside say, we need to put her back into the ground where she belongs. And I sacrificed my marriage and left with her. And that
Wow.
was the dream. But did the art on this the next day because it was so clear and I didn't want to lose it. And I felt like she was like my sister or someone I really was protective of.
Uh-huh.
And it was like that week, someone's on my podcast talking about Lilith, and I'm just like thinking about this dream. And so I started my study there with
Mhm.
Lilith. And then I was having this rabbi on all the time because he studies Kabbalah. And I was trying to share with him that like the tree of life is so very Gnostic, but yet he didn't know that. So we would share information,
Oh,
and
wonderful.
it just was really fun, our conversations. I really have learned a lot from rabbis.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, there are intersections of truth, mystical truths in all faith traditions. And if we just let go of the forced patriarchal interpretation of all of that stuff, then we come together,
Mm.
which is the divine feminine. It's about weaving everybody together. It's about relationship. So to answer the question about the lily in my book, lily is a symbol of Mary Magdalene,
Oh, I didn't
and
know that.
the rose is a symbol of Mother Mary.
Okay, I have heard that. Now I do know my name Shanna, and the rabbi told me this as well, means lily.
Yes, it does. Yeah, actually, I was a lily in a previous life, so it came back to me in many, many ways, and so it makes sense that Lilith is part of that tradition.
Yeah.
The Magdalens, the order of the Magdalens came from Isis,
Isis, okay.
the Egyptian leader and goddess Isis.
Hmm.
And Hathor was before Isis. Isis was trained by Hathor. And they were the great civilization. I mean, Egypt is the source.
Yeah,
And it is from Isis and Hathor that it is a source.
right.
And it was the start of the Order of the Magdalens. So you
Interesting. I never
have
knew that.
a lot of the goddesses are in that Order of Magdalens, and also Joan of Arc. She's part of the Order of the Magdalens.
I've been thinking about this for the past month. Is there a force that is against us? Not not men. I'm not saying necessarily that, but is there something, I guess I'm speaking more of esoteric kind of energy that is against us discovering these things? Hey, listeners, so sorry for the interruption. I'd like to tell you about uncovering the mysteries of Kabbalah. an amazing opportunity to be mentored by one of Sense of Soul's affiliates, Rabbi Matthew Ponak. If you've listened to my prior episodes with him, then you know he has a ton of wisdom to share, and he's offering Sense of Soul listeners a special discount to take a deep and personalized dive into Kabbalah and the unfolding of your own personal journey. If you're interested, go to matthewponak.com/sense of soul. That's MATTHEWPONAK.com/sense of soul to learn more and sign up. Now, back to our amazing guest.
Yes, because part of this is over now that the divine feminine has returned, but we were pretty much part of what some people call the enslavement code. So many of us have been from other star systems and all kinds of stuff, but we ended up here on Earth. And I know that I was in Egypt. I actually went to Egypt in October and had some very profound experiences.
Nice.
So because we've been part of that enslavement code, which, as I said, is now gone, so that this is our last lifetime that we will be here in forgetfulness. And most of the children coming in now will rapidly remember. They may not right now, but they will rapidly remember. And the earth is the focus of much attention right now because we're doing something that has never been done before. We're becoming divinely human. This is one of the reasons why so many of us have stayed here, to develop and to deepen our experiences at a soul level so that we can create this. There are entities, and remember, all entities are unfolded by the source, by the Holy Mother, Father, God, whatever you call it, that are in the fourth dimension that does not want Earth to awaken. It's too late. It's already happening. That is one thing to keep reminding ourselves. It is already happening. It's not going to stop. But there are some entities in the fourth dimension that are working very much with some of our people on Earth who are very much into separation consciousness and the darkness, and their souls are receiving all of the energy, but it's not getting through to them because they are in such fear. They have everything tamped down.
Yeah, so they're working with the people that are trying to hold on to that patriarchal society, like you spoke at the beginning.
Yeah, so there are entities in the fourth dimension that do not want Earth to.
Yeah, call them archons or whatever.
Yeah, I don't know. I've given up on trying to name them anything. I just know they're there. They are of God also. I actually choose not to focus on those that are, because if I do, then I can get lost in the fear.
Yep. Wow.
So I don't focus on them because I actually know that they're not going to succeed. I know that within my heart, and in anybody that's doing any kind of listening to podcasts and channelers and spiritual teachers. They're the ones that believe all of this comes from within. And so they're not trying to tell us, they're just giving us information. They're all saying the same thing, that we are well on this path of awakening and that these forces that don't want us to succeed are losing ground. This is not going to happen.
Yeah.
The thing about those who are residing in the fourth dimension, and I was just listening to a channeler, I've forgotten who it was actually at this point, but she was talking about that actually we talk about Earth is making this grand leap that a planet has never made before, of going from the third denseness of the third dimension to the freedom and the energy of the fifth dimension, right?
Yeah.
But she was talking about that actually we are residing in the fourth dimension right now. It's just heavily influenced still by the third dimension, but it's now getting influenced by the fifth dimension to counteract all of that. So that actually makes some sense on why there's so many fourth dimensional entities here trying to hold us back. I feel my job is to say clearly in my faith and trust in that all of us are part of this awakening.
Yeah, we're one. So that's what I received. I was in the Sophia circle not long ago, and I received. I feel like I haven't channeled Sophia necessarily through any of this, but I felt like my higher self was leading me. But in this circle, definitely, I received a message from the divine feminine, 100%. And this was, oh my God, I think it was December 6th. It was the day that I'm going to have to go back, but I'm almost 100% it was December 6th.
The day
But
of
it
the
was, that's so weird. But what I received, there's no way my brain received it. It was really quick. I shared it with the circle, like on the moment, but it was, I belong to no one and I am home to all.
yeah,
And that
absolutely.
was the first time I felt like I actually received that.
The thing about channeling is that, especially for somebody, I mean, I'm 73, so the Course of Miracles came out in the early 70s, and it was channeled in the 60s and came out in the early 70s.
Mm,
I didn't actually find the Course of Miracles until I was almost 40 years old. So channeling started out for people like myself as being like this, oh boy, there's some amazing people out there. They're channeling all of these texts from Yeshua and Mother Mary and Mary Magdalene
mm,
and all of this sort of stuff. And they're extraordinarily helpful. But then as I've been in this now for a while,
mhm.
we are all channelers. We do it in different ways. Some
Okay.
people have that gift of the direct words coming through them.
Right.
But my book, in a sense, it would not be considered a traditional channeling. But
Right.
as you said,
Right.
your level of awareness is very, very high.
Mhm.
And that's channeling. That's
I
channeling
agree.
our soul selves into
Right.
our body.
Like that synchronicity, your dreams, right?
Yes.
All of these things.
All of that are
Right.
forms of
I
channeling.
agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
for sure.
I think people get hung up on Neil Donald Walsh or Mari Perron, who channeled the Course of Love, which I dearly
Right.
love, or these channelers that are on some of the other podcasts that I've
Yeah.
seen. We all have our gifts and we're all part of this great awakening, and we have a
Absolutely.
purpose. If our little piece is gone, then the awakening doesn't happen. We are all in
Right.
this together in oneness, creating this awakening.
Right. And when you're aware, it just is natural.
Yeah, and when you're
Yeah.
aware,
Yeah. Another thing that I'm curious about, I have a son who's on the spectrum, so somewhere in the middle, but he'll live with mommy forever. Actually, we all desire to be more like him because he has less ego.
this does, and they actually are the savants of the new awakening. I truly
Yeah,
believe.
I can see that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, and my son has dyslexia, and
Yes.
he came in the late 80s. He's an indigo child.
Okay.
So they were sort of second rate. And that was my first ministry with the Unitarian Universalists, was how to create beloved community for all of the children, even the ones that have special needs labels
Hmm.
in our churches. And then I wrote a book called, it was Don't Fix Me, I'm Not Broken, Changing Our Minds About Ourselves and Our Children. It's pretty much for people who have children that have received the special needs label. They don't need to be fixed.
Yeah.
And as much as within separation, sometimes labels are necessary in order to get
Yes.
good services for our children.
Absolutely. Yep.
They are not their disability.
Mm-mm.
That's created by separation. They have immense amount of gifts. And sometimes labels can be self-fulfilling prophecies.
Yeah.
I mean, I always knew within my heart that they're
Mhm.
here to shake things up.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about your son. So you too then have experienced that your kids have been your greatest teachers.
Yes, I sometimes say that Tyler was the catalyst for my spiritual journey, because I mean I was on a spiritual journey, but after I had Tyler, and I was working in the field, the disability field already, so
Okay.
I was well aware of what was going on. But then I realized that what I really needed was a spiritual perspective on all of this. And I did a
Mm.
mini sermon in my church, and I had so many parents come up to me afterwards. And one woman said, if I can't bring my son to church, where can I bring him? And this is a UU church, if you realize they're
Mm.
liberal, which
Yeah.
was a good place for me to do my ministry because
Mhm.
my message was well received on creating beloved community for all children. And what I said is, you create beloved community for one or two children that are struggling, then the whole culture of the church changes for all of the adults that still have their own quirks and personalities. And some of them would be labeled too if they had grown up in a different time.
Absolutely.
And it's a lot of the churches changed dramatically when they just decided to welcome one child that was struggling, no
Mm.
matter what the struggle was.
Hmm.
So yes, my ministry, then I realized that all of these children coming through that were increasing the numbers of kids in special needs programs and so forth, we're here for a purpose: to shake up our educational institutions and to shake up all of the institutions that wants to put them in a box.
Absolutely. They got to change. These generations are pretty amazing. These younger
They are,
generations.
and eventually, it's going to be totally different when we're fully human and fully divine. I mean,
Yeah.
we'll be communicating, not using words. People will be doing their passion and what they love. They won't be
Mhm.
forced to. And plus, because we're in oneness, we have access to all of the wisdom and all of the energy. You don't need to go to school and school,
Right.
the
It was
education
created.
is another
Institution of part of the system.
patriarchal institution that's trying to condition us a certain way to stay where we are.
Very much so. Very much so. The fact that my daughter has to watch news at the beginning of every school day is an issue for me. I don't watch the news.
I don't watch the news either. Boy, that would
Yeah,
be
she
amazing.
has to watch CNN, 10 minutes of current events. I mean, and not only does she have to watch it, she has to digest it because she has to do 3 questions on it to find stuff in common with her life, something that she's never heard before. So I just, no, it just doesn't sit right in me as a
Yeah.
mother. But I
Well,
mean,
why
what can
doesn't
I do? I can take her out of the school, and she just wants to be a kid, She just wants to be with her friends. And the only thing is that she knows how I feel, and she has her own journey, but,
it?
you know, I'm just like,
And the thing of it
trust
is,
yourself.
yeah, and we don't really, we can be empathetic and understand what our children's journeys are, but we can't really know what they are.
True.
We
So true.
really, because we still don't really totally understand our own journeys yet. Because
Just figuring it out in my 30s, 40s. Yes.
we're we're still doing this.
Right. Yeah.
And
Expanding forever.
yeah, and so who knows, maybe her journey is to eventually figure out how to take all of this news and transform it into something else
Right.
that's more nurturing. Who
Or
knows?
yeah, or come up with a new way to share current events where you're not just one-sided or, maybe we need a middle news.
Well, there's plenty of people reporting the other than the mainstream media is there to keep patriarchy in place. Period.
Fear. Yeah, all of it. Yeah.
All of that here. But the reason why this is awakening is happening is that they don't understand all of this groundswell of stuff coming up that's an
Mhm.
alternative to all of that.
True. There's a many conscious YouTubers that you can find, I mean, yeah, it's like that technology is, like both good and bad in many ways.
Yes. Yeah.
And we're able to communicate and I'm able to connect with so many and we're able to spread, what we've received, which is a beautiful thing. But, Yeah, there's a lot of darkness in it as well. I also wanted to ask you, this is something that's been coming up for years for me is, I realized in just being very conscious in my own life that I wasn't always loving unconditionally. I love you as long as you're doing this. Or I felt, it was definitely something I wasn't conscious to. And once I became aware that I was loving with conditions, I really truly started to understand what real love was. And the name of your book, Life is a Song of Love. Why did you choose that title?
Well, I think, as I said in the beginning, I was in the middle of meditation and visualization with Kuan Yin, and it
Hmm.
was all about the inner child. And I had received, even before she gave me the book with the title, I had received some information that I was to write another book about the divine feminine. I already had that awareness, and I was
Hmm.
resisting, as I said. All I can tell you is that in my experience, resistance is futile, as they say.
Yes.
although,
Wasted energy.
although the resistance for us who are connected now with our soul selves and so forth is certainly not like becoming a Borg, but it does not help to resist what your heart and your soul is telling you, because it just delays things and makes you agonize more. It just really
Yeah.
isn't helpful. It's like trying to resist the grief process.
Mm.
Grief has to move. It clears you out. It has to move. If it doesn't move, it gets stuck.
Yeah.
So anytime we resist, and a friend of mine came up with, instead of resist, use the word allow. Instead of
Mm.
resist, allow. So that's what I eventually did. And so the title of the book, Life is a Song of Love. And I did. I looked at the title and I went, well, I don't believe that right now.
Oh, right.
But by the end of the book, I did. So as I said, life is a song of love. And we are um, a world that has been through tremendous trauma over and over and over again. We are all grieving. And
Hmm.
part of the patriarchal control was to convince us that grief was a disease, that you
Right.
just did these certain things and you move on with your life and you continue to be productive and do all of this stuff to make money for everybody else but yourself, all of that kind of stuff. So, um, and we, through the grieving and more, there's so much beautiful stuff out there now about the grieving process, that if you allow yourself to go with the grief, and because I'm grieving a lot more than my husband's death, I'm grieving
Yeah.
lifetimes of stuff. And then stuff that have happened in my own life, especially around safety as a woman and the kind
Yeah.
of things that men who were unconscious were doing to women. Tons of stuff that I never allowed myself to grieve. And it is a part of life, and grief allows the love to bloom. It's something I
Mm.
really didn't totally understand. I would write about it, but because, I have experienced grief,
Right.
my parents and so forth, but nothing like the grief I've been going through with this. And my heart is opening in ways that I had no idea would open. I just, and stuff that I thought I had healed coming back up again. All of this stuff. And it's a gift, even though I'm spending a lot of my time just crying, but it's a
Yeah.
gift. And when we realize that, then we develop compassion for all of those people who have not allowed themselves to grieve all of the
Yes.
stuff in their lives,
Mm.
but also for those people who are grieving. And sometimes who keep receiving that message that's still pretty prevalent out there, that if you don't treat grief like a disease and you're still in grief, then there's something wrong with
Mm.
you. And that's changing, because the
Yeah.
only way the world is going to wake up is if they grieve all of the trauma that we're experiencing and are still experiencing
Yeah.
with Israel and Palestine and the Ukrainians and the Russians and in all of the conflict happening right now.
So true.
I
Mm.
mean, I truly, truly believe that everything happens in divine timing. And we're not really good on waiting on divine timing at
Mm.
times. I mean, I know I'm not terribly patient, but that's something that that's the lesson I receive over and over and over and over again. But I do truly believe that also that everything is perfectly orchestrated for our,
Mm. Mm.
that there are no mistakes. They
Yeah.
may feel like it, but there are no mistakes. And once I really, truly felt into that and now believe that, it's very helpful in trusting what's happening in the world.
Yeah.
That
True.
it's not going to end in us blowing ourselves up. It's not going to end in us going completely backwards again and women being treated like slaves. No, that this is all part of the divine timing, and that the earth is definitely ready for this awakening transition.
Mm. You sounded just like a divine mother in saying that. That's right. What
Yeah,
mother wouldn't say that? Everything is going to be okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly right.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. I feel so very blessed to have met you and to have you on.
Blessed too. Thank you,
Yeah.
Donna. I really
Yeah, I
do.
can't wait to sink into your book. And as soon as mine is finished, I will be sending you this book.
I will love to receive it. Absolutely.
Yes, I will, for sure. I've been so fortunate to connect with so many other women like yourself. Just feel like I've been so blessed by connecting with you. You know, what do they say? There's many paths to many wells, or there's many paths to the well.
There
Yeah.
are, there are. And every single person's journey is unique. And it's also why we can have compassion for them and realize I have to do this over and over again with my daughter, is to recognize that she's on her own
Hmm.
personal unique journey, and
Yeah.
there's intersections of truth, but I can't do the journey for her,
Hmm.
nor can she make me do the journey the way she wants me to appear in her journey. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yes,
I mean,
absolutely.
it was what it was, and now we're
Mm.
transforming that into something else.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel that way. I've tried to tell my mom that. I've tried to tell my mom that recently.
Uh-huh.
You know, because sometimes she's like, "Oh, I wish I would have did this." And I was like, "No, it was all purposeful.
Yeah.
We wouldn't be here right now. I wouldn't be where I'm at. I wouldn't, you know, it's all purposeful."
It was, we all chose who we wanted for our parents and our brothers and sisters and our children and all that. I mean, a
Hmm.
massive amount of synchronicities worked together to make all of that happen,
Hmm.
including the fact that we still have free will. Because sometimes
Yep.
when you read into all of this stuff, you think,
Right. That's when you're stuck in the labyrinth somewhere.
yes, that's the free will going, I'm going to stay stuck here for a while.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. And I hope that we stay in touch. I'm going to do some research on that cosmic egg. I'm not going to do research. I'm actually just going to put it out there that I need to receive what this cosmic egg is to me.
Yeah, and remember, the Orphic egg is often used as the term for the cosmic egg because Orpheus, and also I think it would be interesting as you are looking into it, why the snake is going the opposite direction for you.
Mm, for me, you're right. Thank you. Thank you for putting that out there. And I'm also going to try to find a local labyrinth, and I'll let you know if I find one.
Oh, please do.
Yeah.
I know there's plenty there in Denver.
Oh,
Um,
really?
yeah,
Okay. All right. I'll go and do some research.
you go to
Oh,
my website, you will see a picture.
okay. That I was about to ask you. Oh
I'll
my
leave a picture of
goodness.
my labyrinth on the website.
I can't
Um,
believe the labyrinth too. Another
And you
tree.
can make them sevenfold,
Okay.
fivefold, sevenfold,
This is
fivefold.
like the layers into the inward.
How many times it folds in and out.
Okay. Oh, okay.
And
Nice.
sometimes people will consider spirals to be labyrinths. I mean, they
Mm,
are a mandala,
right,
but
true.
the difference is the spiral just does this and goes in.
Yeah.
I would be very much interested your reaction to my movement on Lilith.
Yes. Yes. In fact, I have ADHD. I'll probably just go right to that chapter and then move around wherever it calls me.
Yeah, that's
Should I start
fine.
at the end where you started? I have done that before, by the way. People
Oh,
like,
well, I actually one of those people that, because I read so much,
yeah,
sometimes,
me too.
especially if it's fiction, I'll like, I think I'll read the ending to see
Yeah,
whether or not I really finish the book.
I've done that for sure. Yeah, I'll skip all this other stuff. No, but
Yeah.
thank you. Can you tell everybody where they can find you?
My website is embracechildspirit.org. And I have recreated the website. I've had this website for many, many years, and my ministry has sort of, and my spiritual journey has changed with the years, but it's still an apt metaphor for what
Love
I'm doing
that.
now. I did recreate the website around the book now. So if you want a sort of a quick introduction to the book, you can go to the website.
Yeah. And then you can get it anywhere books are sold.
Yeah, Barnes and Noble and Amazon for ordering. I've been told that the book is in some independent bookstores, but I don't
Nice.
know. I don't know which ones.
Very cool. I know you can ask them, if you have one, to
Yeah,
get it. So
yeah.
very cool. Yay. Well, thank you so much for all that you're doing and for putting this book out. Yeah.
Thank you.
Many blessings to you.
Many blessings to you. It's been very enjoyable.